Thank you for joining us tonight at Candidates Night. I'm Terry Ingano, and I'll be serving as the moderator tonight. We have two candidates for the Select Board race here with us. Tonight, the candidates, in alphabetical order, are Stephen Lucht and Julie Perusse. We'll begin tonight's program with opening statement from each of the candidates. Each of you will have 2 minutes for an opening statement, and Jeff and Lorene Swan will serve as the official timekeepers. And we will begin with Stephen Lucht's opening statement. Steve?
Thank you, Terry. Hello, my name is Steve Lucht. I'd like to take a moment to thank Civic, Lorene and Jeff for setting this up, as well as moderator Ingano, and the people who sent in questions for all of this. Also, Ms. Perusse for participating in it. And one more quick thing, I'd just like to recognize all the years of service that Bill Connolly provided to our town. Thank you, Bill. All right, I am running for the Select Board because I have skills and experience that can help Clinton during this difficult time. Clinton is a town that has been a launching pad for every generation of my family for over a century. First homes, businesses, and marriages have all been incubated here. I want to use my experience with local and state government combined with my infrastructure skills to assist and continue the efforts to make Clinton a more vibrant and welcoming community for small businesses and young families to make a start, just like mine did. A big motivator for me to run for this position was the amount of walking I did around Clinton during the COVID pandemic, which reminded me of how fortunate we are to have a town with a layout that supports a walkable downtown with access to shops, restaurants, and more. But as you walk through different neighborhoods and see overgrown vegetation, broken sidewalks, and garbage, I can see where we can do better. My public works experience can lend a hand in helping Clinton to be better. While door knocking to gather my signatures, I had the opportunity to discuss topics of shared concern, like the residential versus commercial tax rates, concerns with the senior center, what's going on High Street, and opportunities to improve our green community status. I look forward to address these items and more as we go on with the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Julie, your opening statement.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to start with a little bit about me. Hi, my name is Julie Perusse. I live at 72 Cedar Street with my husband, Chad, who's a Navy veteran, and my 2 daughters who are students at the Clinton Middle School. My parents, Jim Kerrigan, Kathy Lamb, and Patty Kerrigan, grew up in Clinton, as did my sisters, Mary and Helen. I moved here about 15 years ago with my young family. In those years, I've been very active and involved in our community. I work with Discover Clinton, a nonprofit group whose goal is to increase economic growth by promoting our great dining, shopping, arts, culture, and recreation. They also host community events and provide info and valuable resources, including grants to our small businesses. I felt the schools could do a better job communicating with parents, so 6 years ago I started volunteering with the school committee and I served on their marketing subcommittee. I still do. We had a lot of success, including building and better utilizing social media platforms, creating a community newsletter, and getting the word out about what's happening in the schools. I'm on the board and a coach for the Billy Wynn Basketball Association, Clinton's local youth basketball program. I'm always advocating for girls in youth sports. I've been a coach with Clinton Youth Soccer for many years, and I'm a frequent volunteer at the Clinton Public Schools. Professionally, I've spent 20 plus years in marketing communications, many of them in residential and commercial real estate, where I've learned to sell a town and its benefits. Currently, I work for a technology company that connects caregivers with people who need child, senior, pet, or home care. The past year with the pandemic has shown how critical this need is. I've enjoyed my community service. I've met a lot of local people that way, and now I'm hoping to serve the town as a member of the Select Board.
Thank you very much. All right, it's time now to offer several questions, and each of you will have 2 minutes to respond to them. These questions came from me or mostly the general public, and The problem with all of this is I only have time to ask you 6 questions. There are so many more that probably need to be addressed.
Right.
And that's up to you folks, and perhaps at the end of the program you'll give the information where people can contact you, and they want to know your stance on certain things that I probably won't ask tonight.
Sure.
So with that being said, we'll go in alphabetical order. Question number 1 was going to be for Stephen first, and then we go to Julie. If elected, what would be your number 1 priority?
Okay. My number 1 priority would probably be a fear that I have for the town, it becoming the next bedroom community on 495. Clinton has low housing costs, and the accessibility it has to major highways in the area. It's a place where people come to sleep, but not to shop, spend their money, recreate. They go out of town for that. We have open storefronts. We have old industrial space that we could utilize. And I want to invite and encourage new businesses to come and open. It's hard to convince people to come here and spend their life savings on building new businesses that they want to bring to town when their neighbors and the businesses that are next to them are in disrepair. So I can use my experience to help and support new businesses with clean streets, open sidewalks, better public spaces. Outdoor areas and green spaces in town are very inviting, and I'd like to use my experience to welcome people coming into town. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Julie, you're up now. What would be your number 1 priority?
I think it would primarily be bouncing back from this pandemic. Between the pandemic and the downtown revitalization, it's been a little bit of a 1-2 punch for our local businesses. And I think with the experience I've had in terms of residential and commercial real estate, and also with my work with Discover Clinton, that I can really help with marketing the town and attracting new businesses, which will ultimately broaden our commercial tax base and hopefully lift the burden on residential taxes. I'm also a big advocate for marketing and communication. Like I said, that's kind of my bread and butter. So secondary to that, I would say, trying to make town hall a little bit more accessible, and I'm thinking more of along the lines of like the website, like having it be easier to find minutes to meetings, or what you need to do to pull a building permit. Just make it more accessible. That's I don't think people should have to search for that information. And also, we should be pushing information. We should be pushing information out about town meeting, our warrants, the budget, what information. We have a Facebook page now that mainly has been used for the pandemic, but I think there's a lot of possibilities there. So those would be my priorities.
Thank you. Sure. All right, question number 2, we now start with Julie. It's how do we get more people to attend town meeting, and should we do something about the quorum? We'll start with Julie.
Yeah, as someone who's attended almost every town meeting since I've lived here, we've all been there, texting friends, saying, we need people here. The 200 voter quorum is a challenge. And again, I'm going to go back to the marketing communication. Like, we have a sign out front that is utilized by town hall, but I think we should really connect on social media, let people know, create events to remind people. We could also too, I think we have a communication system where people can sign up and we can send information through that. So I think we should essentially do a better job of promoting town meeting and getting the information out there earlier as soon as possible in terms of the town warrant. It is a lot to digest, and I think a lot of people just don't understand what is going on, and the language is difficult to understand. So I would love to set up some educational opportunities for people to learn what's on the town warrant. In terms of lowering it, I kind of go back and forth with this. It always is unfortunate, like the same people who come to town meeting every year, so the same people are making the decisions on behalf of everyone in the town. So I think between, promoting it a little bit more, we would be able to get more people there. But I would be in favor of lowering it. A lot of times we don't even get through the whole warrant because we're waiting a half an hour to get a quorum. And I think that's a problem as well. If we're not being able to address these town issues, then in that time, then, and a lot of times we count at the end and we don't have it, we end the meeting. It's very dissatisfying. So that would be two ways.
Thank you. All right, Steve, you're up. How do we get more people to attend town meeting, and should we do something about the quorum?
We can lie and just say that there's chickens on every warrant. And we can get people to come that way. As far as lowering the number, it's tough because you want the people there. I think we could continue to keep the number that we have right now. It's just that we need outreach. We need better communication, whether it's from an email list that people can sign up for via the town website, which we could also utilize in a better way than we are right now. The thing that I see the most in neighboring towns that I know works is message boards. I know that Mass DOT donates message boards to the town of West Boylston and Lancaster for advertising their town meetings. And if the town of Clinton could get a couple of message boards, we could use them for town meetings. The fire department could use them to advertise things that the fire department needs. All of the youth sports could use them for signups. It's a way to get big, shiny letters out for everybody to see, advertising the meetings. I know that a lot of people struggle to just find out about a meeting because there's a sandwich board out in front of town hall and it says that the meeting is next Tuesday and you didn't even know that it was coming up. And it's a struggle. Me and my wife have been in a meeting before, texting our friends saying we need you here now because we need to make this quorum. So I think just better outreach to the community, and I think if we could spread the advertising outside of the center of town, whether it's the roads that are coming into town, into the neighborhoods that have a denser population, just to advertise the meeting as soon as the warrant is basically approved. It's how I think we should go about it.
Thank you. All right, question number 3, we start again with Steve. You knew this was coming up. I think we have about 10 marijuana establishments that are in the process of setting up business in our town. How are we going to make sure that these local cannabis companies comply with all of the related laws that they are supposed to be following?
We could get a subcommittee together that would actually know the actual laws that they need to follow more. I think our building inspector could definitely have something to do with whether or not they're complying. And I also think that we should utilize our public safety and talk to them and make sure that they're comfortable with the amount of staffing that they have on to make up the difference with the new industry that's coming into town. It's a new thing that I think we're all starting to come together and understand. So I think for the time being, we're just going to have to adapt as it comes.
Julie, how are we going to keep these cannabis companies following the rules?
Yeah, from how I understand it is we have 10 permits out there to retail, 8 for growing it. And there are tons of hoops that they have to go through in terms of state level permitting, inspections and whatnot, and not a lot of them have gotten that far yet. So it's a little surprising. I think there's a few that are kind of on the cusp. There's Affinity that is up and running. But yeah, I think just like anything else in terms of developers that come in and build houses and then do not leave the street lights, or promise to put in street lights and then don't. I think it's the same kind of type of oversight in terms of, like Steve said, like the building inspectors, they have to do their due diligence, and kind of a whole group effort, like Board of Health. I was down in the area of one, and I can smell marijuana down there. So I understand. I think it would be a group effort, and it would be kind of the, how we need to better communicate in town in terms of the building inspector, Board of Health, public safety, in order to get them to regulate it.
Thank you. All right, question 4, we start with Julie now. And this might sound like question number 2, but I think we're looking beyond town meeting. How can we get more people actively involved in all phases of town government? How are we going to motivate them? Julie?
Yeah. I had some notes on that, so I was looking for it. But, I think, again, I think town government, local government can be a little intimidating. And even when I go onto the website, I see all these lists of departments and all these boards that need more members, but everyone might not understand what those boards do, what the commitment might be. So I do think it's an education process. If people need, or if we need more volunteers for the zoning commission, what does that entail? What are people? What do they do? How many meetings do they have? And even just asking people to volunteer is, I think, a powerful thing. So I think we need to get it out that we need volunteers. And I'm not talking about just posting it on the website. I'm talking about pushing it out, whether it's to the item, to our social media channels. I'm on Nextdoor a lot, which is another community social media site, kind of just letting people know that we are in need. And I also think identifying, what skills would be good for each volunteer opportunity to get the right people in the job, and then recruiting them. I mean, I do think it's up to our local leaders to maybe identify people in the community that could serve and really ask them. I know that there's an opening on the finance committee, and I can think of a friend who I think would be a perfect candidate. And even outside of this, I might just suggest it to him because I think he would be a real advocate. And I think that's part of being vocal, and part of having a better understanding of the time commitment, what it is, what skills that you have, and how you could serve. And like I said, I ended up coaching basketball, which is one of the greatest things that I do, because a friend of mine rolled up and said, "I think you'd make a great basketball coach. Will you come help us?" And I've been doing it for many years. So sometimes people just need to be asked. I think that's an important part.
Thank you. All right, Steve, you're up on how do we get people actively involved in town government?
Communication and transparency is a major thing that we need to do better at. Most municipalities utilize one of 2 website platforms. It's the 2 best website platforms that you could get for a town website, and Clinton has one of those 2. It's an easily editable website, and the responsibility for the town departments, boards, and commissions, it should be their responsibility to keep their pages up to date. It's in this digital age, it's really unrealistic to post something on a physical bulletin board inside town hall and think that it's going to be put out to the town. We need, like I said earlier in an earlier question, we need people to be able to sign up and get emails sent to them. It could be something as simple as, like I said earlier, just a message board to advertise that there is a commission that's seeking help. I know that conservation had a hard time a few years ago trying to fill seats. It's a struggle with all boards. So I think just basic community outreach from town hall and via the website is a good place to start.
Thank you. All right, question number 5, you had a figure. We're going to start talking a little bit about taxes and all of that. So this one we start with Steve now. And I don't want to get anybody upset. These are just things that I'm going to mention that I've heard or could be coming down the road. So hopefully no one's going to take this as fact. But anyway, the question is, we have many projects in the works right now and several projects possibly planned for the future. I know that the library wants to put on a new addition. We may be offered St. John's Gym at some point. We have the armory that we need to make a decision on, I think, or do something with. And of course, as we'll be talking about Monday night, we may need a new Clinton Middle School. How are we going to handle all these projects? You know, maybe selling the idea of these projects and their importance to the many taxpayers who already feel like they're spending too much money on taxes.
This is a good question.
Thank you.
I'm trying to see how to start this. The people of Clinton have been very fortunate to have the residential tax rate that we've had for a long time. With the loss of industry over the last few years, we've seen the balance between commercial and residential starting to shift. The split that we have right now it's making people uncomfortable. What we need to do is we need to embrace the industrial bones that we have in Clinton and welcome new industry. We talked about how we have a lot of marijuana places coming in. There's 13 open storefronts on High Street. We can't just rely on the 13 storefronts on High Street to bring back the tax rates. With the town-funded projects that we have coming, we're going to have to rely on businesses coming in and getting the tax rate back to where it was when we had Weetabix. We can embrace light industry coming back into town. We have the Injectronics, which everything is great. I believe if we embrace marijuana, have marijuana come in, and then welcome the small businesses to come in, with the collection of all of that, I think further down the line, everything will settle back down and we'll be back in a good place.
Very good. All right, Julie, I can repeat that whole thing, but basically with all these projects, whether it be St. John's Gym, the library, the new school, how do we, you know, these are important projects and probably needed projects. So how do we sell the idea of these to taxpayers who already feel overtaxed?
Yeah, I am a big proponent of being, again, very transparent with information. So I know that the library did a feasibility study to outline some of the needs, whether it's building a new one or adding on and redeveloping this one. I know from the families that I've been working with in town that they would love to see a youth center, and St. John's Gym might be a great opportunity for that. The Armory is a big kind of behemoth. I'm not really sure what we could do with that. It's a very big building. And the Clinton Middle School, I think that is a very aging infrastructure that we will all have. So for me, I really appreciate those feasibility studies and maybe, you know, what are we talking about? What is the cost, the projected cost? What does it mean, like how can we utilize that space? Like, can we utilize the Armory for office space for businesses to come in and use? I'm not sure, but I'm sure, you know, information would be able to give us more to go on there. Again, the Clinton Middle School, the elementary school and the high school, they were built within a few years of each other, and they're aging at the same time. So kicking the can down the road in terms of the middle school might be pretty dangerous. So I think we really have to take a look at that. And I agree, it will be maybe a tough sell, but I think if we can pull together those studies, how long you know, some of those redevelopments, you know, might last, what we could use them for, we could then make a better case for which one we should tackle first. I think the library a few years ago, we voted on a new roof for that, and I understand it's leaking. So where is the construction company that helped us with that? Why are we not kind of holding them accountable if it's already leaking again, So it's accountability as well. But for me, I need to have like kind of a bigger picture and maybe a plan. And I would love to see that more here in Clinton. I think when we go to town meeting, a lot of times we don't really see what's happening in the future. So maybe the facilities department can work on their capital plan and make some recommendations. I know there's people who might have more information on this than I do right at the moment. So lean heavily on them to provide us with the information so we can make an informed decision and then educate the public on it. A lot of people might pass the middle school and think, it looks fine, but it needs some help, and we keep dumping money into it to kind of patch it up, Band-Aid the situation. Again, St. John's Gym, maybe it might not be so much to renovate it, maybe it might be not cost effective to do that. So I think having a big picture and a more long-term plan would help the taxpayers better understand where their tax money is going. And I do agree, the burden cannot necessarily go all on the residential taxpayers, and we have to, really think creatively on how we can bring more businesses into Clinton, so we can spread the tax burden around.
Thank you. Well, it's that time for my last question. How about that? Time flies when you're having fun. So my last question will start with Julie, and it's a question that came from the general public, and you'll know what I mean by it, but the question was, why you and why now?
Oh, well, they're kind of taking my thunder with my closing.
It's true, it might be related to your closing, but you will have 2 minutes for your closing,
Okay,
too.
well, maybe I'll repeat myself there, but why me and why right now? I sat at town meeting last year and I said, wow, there are a lot of men on that stage. And I think women bring a lot of value to the table. And that was one of the reasons I decided to run. We have a voice, and I think it's important to have that voice heard. So that was one of the reasons. And Bill Connolly has served this town for many, many years, and I think he was doing a fine job. But when he decided, he's served us well and it deserves a break. So I saw this as an opportunity to really get a fresh perspective in local government. And like I said, my marketing communications and my experience in the technology sector, I bring to the table something much different than people who are currently serving, or even Steve. So I think that also my background in real estate could be very valuable here as well, because I spent 12 years working for a residential and commercial real estate company, and I've traveled to over 100, and we had offices in 120 towns in Massachusetts. So I've seen these towns. I have helped realtors sell homes in these towns. I've helped them sell. You're essentially selling the community that these homes are in. I know how to sell it and how to sell the benefits of Clinton. And so I think that given the pandemic and where we are, and I see it as a huge opportunity to leverage my experience now as a select board member.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Steve, you're up. Why you and why now?
I've been contemplating running for a few years now. Seeing the High Street project going on and going out of town all the time, really, to go out to eat, and I see other mill towns that are neighboring, the way that they have utilized their old mill buildings for new restaurants, and now with the Sterling Street Brewery, you see the potential that's in town. And I am just looking, because when I'm walking around town, I see things that I fix every day with my day-to-day work. And I say, why can't Clinton do this? Why can't Clinton do that? And I know what the town could be, and I want to do everything in my power and with my ability to bring that to town. My great-grandparents started here. Everybody's been in town for a long time. I have a deep love for it, and I just like it to be better. I see potential on every street corner for new businesses, and I love all the different neighborhoods in town, and I just really want to use the abilities that I have and my knowledge of everything to try and make Clinton a better place.
Thank you very much. All right, that concludes the questions. So now we will conclude the program with closing statements from each of you. And again, now we're starting with Stephen again, your closing statement.
Again, I would just like to thank everybody and Julie for coming out tonight and making this all happen. I was not on Facebook at all before I started running, so I recently made a Facebook page. You could find it at Steve Luke for Clinton Board of Selectmen. My website is simply steveluke.com, and my email address is steveluke01510@gmail. If anybody has any questions or if they want to go someplace and have a beer and talk, I'm available. I'm more than willing to meet people and talk about the ideas that I have, because I'm constantly walking around town and I have lists in my head of everything that I would love to help with. Again, this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm very excited to be running. It's been great walking around and talking to everybody that I had to talk to get my signatures. I had to door knock to get every single one of my signatures, so it was enjoyable. Again, thanks for everybody, and I hope you consider a vote for me on June 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie, your closing statement.
Thank you to Civic for hosting this event, Terry for your thoughtful questions, and to Steve for joining me tonight, and thank you to everyone who's watching. I decided to run because Clinton has a proud history, and I want its future to be just as bright. I've met so many great people based on my community involvement, and these people have been hit hard by this pandemic. We are in a critical moment. My marketing, communications, and technology experience can bring valuable insights and ideas, much different than those currently serving on the board or seeking the position. We need to ensure that Clinton is successful in the future, and that includes budget oversight, efficient processes, improved communication, and fresh ideas. I believe in accountability, transparency, and I'm not afraid to ask tough questions and research ways we can make things better. Like, what can we do to attract businesses and diversify our tax base? How can we make it easier for citizens to get the information they want and need? What have other towns done and we can learn from and leverage? What are we doing well and what could be done better? We owe that and solutions to taxpayers who invest every year in Clinton. I also think the best ideas come from listening, and leaders should always be listening to the community. Another reason I'm running is that I feel that our town leadership should reflect our town's demographics. And last time I checked, Clinton was not 100% men. We have a female vice president, yet Clinton has only elected 2 women to the select board, ever. I'm qualified to do this job, I want to do this job, and I feel it's time for a woman's voice to be a part of our local leadership. I'm a mom, I have 2 young daughters, I coach young girls. They are watching and believe women should have a seat at the table where decisions are being made. If you have any additional questions that I may not have covered tonight, please reach out to me. Again, I'm very accessible. My website is perusseforclinton.com, which connects you to my email and Facebook pages. I'm also at Coffeelands from 7:30 to 9 a.m. every Friday until the election to answer any of your questions. Again, thank you, and I hope to earn your vote on June 14th.
Thank you very much, both of you, for participating tonight. It was great. In closing, I want to remind everyone of some very important dates coming up very soon. Monday night, this coming Monday, June 7th, is the annual town meeting at 7 p.m. at the town hall. We have 45 warrant articles to discuss. We're spending a lot of money. There's a lot of things to be considered, and we need you to come. We need people there. Also, of course, the following Monday, June 14, is our annual election, and that takes place from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. right here at the Town Hall. So those are two big events that we hope people will participate in. And finally, before we end tonight, I want to thank Jeff and Laureen Swan of the Concerned and Informed Voters Collaborative for all of their work in making this happen tonight. Thank you and good night.